Are you thinking of giving something up that's maybe not so good for you? Well, today I want to share with you my experience from 3 months of having no alcohol. And if you stay until the end, I've got an extra point for you then as well. Now, before we dive in today, I just wanted to mention that if you want to keep up to date with the latest episodes, never miss any, and get a free weekly confidence tip, all you got to do is click in the link in the show notes below to sign up for our free weekly newsletter. So for me, I've had times when I've given up alcohol for a little bit, and like I didn't just want to do a January detox, and I'm sharing this today because I want to kind of share my experience on the whole mindset, the self confidence, the self esteem from giving up alcohol. And it may not necessarily be what you think. It's not because often you see people advertise on social media when they give up something like, "Oh my god, I gave up alcohol and that changed my life," and all that kind of thing. And I just wanted to give a very honest perspective. And what I really want to do is just be very genuine with you because I think there's so much like fake in this world. And therefore, I think that impacts people's self esteem because they look at someone else and think, oh, everyone's got it together, when actually we don't have it all together. We're always working on things, right? I did want to share some of my findings with you though, if you're considering giving up something for a bit. And like I said, there's times when I've given it up, and usually those times are like, maybe I've had a bit too much. Maybe I'm focusing on something. Maybe I want to get like super into shape. Maybe I've got like a half marathon, or well, I've got my first one coming up. Maybe I've got like a 10K coming up that I've done before. Maybe it's just I've got a real time I need to really focus, and alcohol's gonna get in the way, right? And then other times it's like, well, I'm feeling in a good place, I'm relaxing, and I'll have a drink or two, right? And like, is something good or bad for you? It's completely up to you to decide. It's like about knowing yourself. Now, I found that when I'm in a bad place, this is particularly a pattern in my mid 20s, actually in my early 20s as well. When I was in a bad place and I'd go out partying and maybe definitely having too much alcohol, using that as a tool for kind of working over emotions rather than feeling them, that's not good use of it. Yet when I was in a good place and I just want to go out for a few drinks with my mates, it's like, no, it's fine. So again, I believe, it's completely up to you how you see things. It's just how are you using things and how they making you feel at the end of the day. Now, yeah, I didn't want to just do a like January detox. I want to do like 6 months of really, really good because I'm really doing some deep work, really doing a lot of somatic work. I've got my breathwork facilitator training coming up on Tuesday. So yeah, I just really wanted to kind of give a bit of a break and then really go deep and work out a few challenges that have come up in the last 2 years, whilst I still creating the podcast, still create content. And that's why I decided to give up alcohol for a bit, right? Whether that's forever is still to be determined. But yeah, I'm on the 6 month and I'm on the halfway mark at the moment. Now, I want you to think about like maybe there's something that's really holding you back. And something else that's really holding me back is like social media and scrolling it too much. It's definitely something I'm always working on. But at the same time, I connect with people and I'm able to message someone quickly, and it allows me to give content, give value to people. So it can be a good tool. But I want to ask you this: if there's maybe something in your mind that's really holding you back and it's like, right, this is destroying me, maybe it's time to give it a bit of a break for a bit, right? So let's go through some points of action today. Well, maybe things I've shared and maybe you can implement these. So the first one is what I've noticed is, particularly at the start, I noticed I was trying to find a lot of ways to distract myself, particularly at the weekends, to not sit with my emotions. I've noticed a pattern through my 20s that I was just going out every weekend, and like I would, even though it was good fun, sometimes I'd use it to deal with, distract myself from maybe breaking up with someone, it not working out with the girl or whatever. Um, and actually, or something tough at work, whatever it was in my career, right? Now I find that when I've got this uncomfortable emotions, I was actually starting to maybe eat, like order a pizza, um, maybe spend my money on something else, maybe just work a little bit more. And I found it super interesting that I was finding other ways to distract myself when actually what I needed to do is just sit in myself. And that can be very uncomfortable, but with practice, you can really get there. The second thing I've noticed is you start to understand who you really resonate with more. And what I mean by that is, or who you connect with more. What I mean by that is, it's quite easy to connect with a lot of people when you're drinking alcohol. Like you're like, "Oh, you're my best friend. I love you." You know, that kind of thing. What I've noticed is it's really interesting which of my friends, people I know that I connect with a lot more when I'm not drinking. I met my friend earlier, and me and her get on really well. She's a good mate of mine. She's been on the podcast as well, and yeah, I like connected to her because we're into like group. We're in the same groups. We're into growth and all that kind of thing, right? And then I've noticed when I've had breaks in alcohol with not too many, but maybe one, maybe two of my mates, when actually we used to have a great time going out, but actually when we weren't drinking, the conversation wasn't that great. And it's not disrespect to him, not disrespect to me. It's just you notice who you connect with more when you're not drinking. The third one, life can be a little, I found for me personally, life can be a little bit tougher at first because you have to find new ways to relax, to unwind. You don't want to distract yourself. Or you can't distract yourself. And actually, what I've learned is you've got to find other ways of relaxing. Like, for example, today I went for a 9 mile run. All right. That's my way of relaxing, doing a lot of breath work. So start planning in things you can do to relax instead. The fourth thing is absolutely key to declare it. When I've just said, I'm not drinking for a bit to myself, I usually don't stick to it. When I've told it to a friend, like I have in this case, 6 months, no drinking. If I do, I will pay you this much, right? I'm accountable and I'm not that bothered if I have to give him, I said I'll give him 100 quid. Like that's not like, I know it's different people. That's not a massive amount of money to me, to be honest, like giving him 100 quid, but it's more keeping my word to someone else. And the fact that I've got that accountability makes me more likely to stick with it. Right. And then the fifth one is really key. If you don't like reality, learn to fix it. Don't learn to run from it. And that was something I've been in a frequent pattern of. And actually, what I found is I sometimes sit with really uncomfortable feelings within inside myself. And and when I've done that, I've actually been in a more heart driven, like energetic place. So you're not going to fight reality or run away from reality. You're going to sit with it and you're going to understand it and look at it like a fun adventure of something you can be working on rather than trying to fight it. I got a bonus point for you as well. Just before I get onto that, I want to say this as well. If you want to keep up to date with all the latest podcast episodes, never miss any, all you got to do is click in the link in the show notes below and you can subscribe to this podcast newsletter for absolutely free and get a free weekly confidence tip. Okay, my final point I want to share with you is make sure you have systems in place. Now, one of those systems is having an accountability partner. That's really, really effective, something that's really, really, really helped me. The other things is make sure if you're giving up something, make sure you're removing distractions. Make sure you're maybe limiting what you can pay, right? If you really want to go a little bit further in this, then I would suggest reading a book called Willpower Doesn't Work by Dr. Benjamin Hardy. It's really, really good. It talks about the fact that if you're like, try to give up something, but it's all in your face, you're not going to last, right? Willpower does not work, right? You've got to have systems, you've got habits in place. So if you're like, I'm going to give up alcohol for 3 or 4 months, you live with a bunch of, you people who are out all the time. Um, it's going to be really, really hard, right? I live on my own, but if I had, a couple of drinks in the flat or apartment, I'd probably be tempted sooner or later to have them. I don't have any alcohol in my home. It's a bit like food as well. If you're like if you got feel like you got a bit of a sugar addiction, which I know a lot of people have, um, then if you've got all sugar treats in the cupboards and you're like, I'm not going to eat the sugar, I'm not going to eat the sugar, I'm not going to eat the sugar, guess what's going to happen? You're probably going to eat the sugar, right? I had a friend and I was helping him with weight loss once. And I'm not even a weight loss coach or anything, but I just gave him some guidance and he did amazing. He lost lots and lots of weight, right? But at first he was like, I'm doing well, except I keep eating the crisps in my home. I'm like, why have you got crisps in your home? And he's like, oh well, just when I want a treat. I said, get rid of them, and when you feel like you deserve a treat at the weekend, whatever, that's great. Go out and buy a packet, right? So it's really important to have systems in place, and that's the book I'd recommend if you're thinking about giving up something that's bad for you. Make sure you read the book Willpower Doesn't Work by Benjamin Hardy. So that's what I got for you today. I just wanted to share my experience of giving up alcohol and what I found. Maybe you want to give up alcohol, maybe you want to give up something else. I just want to give you that little bit of insight here because sharing is caring, of course. I appreciate you for being here. You're improving other people's lives by being the best you. And remember, you are in control of your own self-esteem and confidence.